I think what the establishment and the media forget that when Tommy Robinson comes out, he's coming out a hero. The more pain they put him through, the more persecution they put him through, the more hunger they put him through, he's going to come out a hero.
Breaking right now, Tommy Robinson is being forced into starvation behind bars at Woodhill Prison. The persecution of the UK's #1 political prisoner brings shame on our country internationally. Remember, the richest man in the world, a senior member of the Trump administration, Elon Musk, is now paying for Tommy Robinson's legal bills. Yet the mainstream media in this country, the political class, completely ignore what is going on. Well, I won't. So here's the disturbing update from Tommy's team. They write, HMP Woodhill continue to refuse Tommy access to the canteen. He is unable to stock up on tinned foods so he can actually eat. They are forcing him into starvation. Tomorrow's visits have been cancelled, even though the prison governor assured Tommy the visitation would go ahead on Friday. Tommy has only just found out through a call to a family member who spoke to him on the phone. The visitation was planned 2 weeks ago. An email was sent to a family member today at 1:30 confirming the cancellation of the visit. HMP Woodhill are acting despicably, spitefully, and with no care or consideration for the fact they continue to abuse his human rights, and I would argue, in an attempt to break him mentally. We will be speaking to Tommy's legal team tomorrow and come back with further updates. Based and Bougie, you are a Tommy Robinson supporter. This is incredibly shocking to me. When I went to see Tommy in December, he was completely living for that canned food and the crisps and everything that come in the plastic wrappers. And by the way, for people who say, well, why can't he just eat the prison food? Let's just remember, this is a guy who is currently being housed by the prison in a 16-cell wing designed for terrorists with no other inmates anywhere near him because there is such a threat to his safety given the Muslim population in that prison. What's your response to all of this madness?
It's absolutely heartbreaking. Honestly, when I saw this on Twitter, my heart broke only because last summer I saw him. He looked healthy and he looked strong. And I cannot imagine what he may look like now that they have starved him for a week. Now, my question to just the establishment is, did they do this with Axel Rudakabana? Did they treat him this way?
Of course
And
they
mind
didn't.
you,
He was,
exact, and mind
according
you,
to Tommy, he was attending mosque in
exactly.
Belmarsh prison.
Thank you. And this is someone who slaughtered babies. Tommy Robinson, on the other hand, has spent 10 years protecting babies from grooming, and this is how they treat him. This goes exactly to what Sophie was saying in the sense that this country does not care about children. Because if they cared about children, they would be knighting Tommy Robinson rather than knighting Sadiq Khan. I don't know what he's done in this country, but instead they starve him. They starve him. I think what the establishment and the media forget that when Tommy Robinson comes out, he's coming out a hero. The more pain they put him through, the more persecution they put him through, the more hunger they put him through, he's going to come out a hero. And I think we just need to put we need to pray for Tommy Robinson, and we just pray that the Holy Spirit allows him to make his mind stronger than his flesh, because I cannot imagine the mental torture that he's going through. First, they took away his rights to speak to his family. Then they started to give NDAs. Then they started to ban people with social media accounts speaking to him. Like, all this because he protected children. And sorry to prolong this, but I also had a friend who was never really a fan of Tommy Robinson. When I sent my friend this post, he said, this ain't right. This ain't right. And this was someone who did not like Tommy Robinson. And it pains me that he's going through this. And it even pains me even more that mainstream media refuses to cover this.
I know, shame on them. Absolutely shame on them. Because the point is that whether you believe Tommy Robinson is a good person or not, this is a guy who is locked up at the moment in a wing reserved for terrorists, starving because he released a piece of independent journalist. Now, just before I bring you in, Sophie Corcoran, there's been an update on this from the other very good independent journalist, David Atherton, who has been contacted, he writes, by Aya Fogg. Now, you'll remember if you were watching last week's show, she's the chair of the Danish Free Press Society who had visited Tommy last week and actually did sign the non-disclosure agreement but broke it because they were so worried about his health. Now, according to David, she confirms Tommy has lost weight and looks frail. He looks like when he was previously released. He has the same expression in his eyes. He tries to stay in shape by working out but looks far from healthy. Although not a psychiatrist, what worried us most was his expression. I have known people with depression. He appears to be suffering from the condition. He has trouble starting conversations. He was formal and polite despite knowing each other well. He had trouble starting conversations, but at the end, he was getting used to us and was getting into gear. Aya is a keen advocate of the rule of law, but rightly brings Tommy's conditions to the world's attention. And she said, Tommy can't tolerate the isolation much longer. Things are going rapidly downhill. And Sophie, your party's MP, Rupert Lowe, and I need to give Rupert Lowe credit for this because he is the only mainstream politician with the balls to speak out, has now said that he will write to the Ministry of Justice asking to ensure that a fair approach is being taken. But first, you know how often I talk about the need for free speech to be protected, but I've been thinking a lot lately about the need for personal protection online from snoopers, bad actors, and hackers. But don't worry, I have found the fail-safe solution. And what's more, this VPN is a life changer when it comes to providing you entertainment and information from anywhere in the world, wherever you are. So let me introduce you to Surfshark, an incredible, easy-to-use service that encrypts all your internet traffic, meaning your online activities stay safe, allowing you to shop, to stream, to browse, to conduct your banking online in complete privacy. But the benefits of Surfshark go way beyond keeping you safe online. This service allows you to access your favorite entertainment or news shows or channels, or access, by the way, to streaming services like Hulu, iPlayer, HBO Max, and Peacock. Or if you've got a streaming service already, but your favorite show happens to be geo-blocked, maybe on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney Plus, within seconds, you can actually be watching as if you are in another country. This is such a good service. Really helps, by the way, if you're traveling for work or on holiday and you want to get your favorite local content from home, including sports, which is very often subject to geo-blocking. Plus, Surfshark is an insurance policy against creeping censorship in many countries which block some of these services. Effectively, you can watch anything, anytime, anywhere. It is true freedom. There's also so much you can do with VPNs, right? It's a way to save you money and get the best deals from websites that change their prices depending on where you're buying from. So you can actually sign in to multiple countries and check the price before buying. There are other benefits too. Surfshark is available to use on unlimited devices, which means your entire household, so your husband, your wife, your kids, can stay safe with just one subscription. And there are over 3,200 servers in over 100 countries, meaning a world of choices at your fingertips with 24/7 customer service if it is your first time using a VPN. So go to surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. What's more, Surfshark is so confident they're the best VPN in the world that you can give it a try for a full 30 days. And if you're not entirely satisfied, you will get your money back. So go to www.surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, and I think that's the appropriate thing to do. I don't think whether you think that it is justified why Tommy Roberts is in jail or not, we are a country that treats our prisoners fairly and humanely, even though some, like Axel Rudikabana, certainly do not deserve to be treated fairly or humanely. Tommy Robinson, I think, certainly does, but that is what we do as a country. That is a mark of a country, is how they treat their prisoners, and he deserves to be treated fairly. And I think Rupert Lowe is right in saying, it's not him endorsing Tommy Robinson anyway, saying that we cannot accept people being left in these conditions. And fair play to the lady who broke the NDA. Politics relies on people like them to tell the truth, even though legally they're not supposed to, because people always are corrupt and they treat people badly, and we need to expose the truth when things aren't right. So well done to her at least. But I think, yeah, commendable for Rupert Lowe. A job as an MP is to ensure, and all MPs should take the same approach, whether you're Labour or whatever, because ultimately all prisoners deserve to be treated humanely and fairly. Well, not all of them, but certainly those that are civil prisoners. And at least if we're going to treat them all fairly and humanely, then it has to be all prisoners, not just the ones that we like politically or dislike politically.
Sophie, what do you make of Based and Bougie's claim that Tommy Robinson is going to come out of prison a hero now, a martyr? Some people even say Britain's Nelson Mandela. Does that not pose some problems for your party, Sophie, given there does appear to be this divide between Nigel Farage, who has this visceral, let's be honest, a visceral dislike to Tommy Robinson, and then Rupert Lowe, who's much more influenced by Elon Musk's approach to this story?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a difficult topic for reform. I'm not quite sure if he's going to come out the nation's hero. I still think there is a significant amount of the population that dislike Tommy Robinson. And the difficulty is for reform, and something that I've really experienced through canvassing them for the first time. First of all, it is much more enjoyable canvassing reform than it ever was in the Tory party. But we are taking a lot of Labour Party votes. Almost, so we've got a by-election where I'm from at the moment, and almost all the votes we've got are Labour Party votes. So there needs to be an understanding that people who would have voted Labour previously are probably not going to vote for reform if we partner with Tommy Robinson. And the reason why reform is going to be so successful, and I think could end up being the most successful political party that we have had in decades, is because we're not only sort of the Tories 2.0, we're getting a significant amount of Labour vote. In actual fact, I think at the next election, we're going to get more Labour vote than we will the Tories. I think there's a limit to the vote that we can get from the Conservatives, whereas for the Labour vote, it's not. And part of that is the reason why reform is going to be so extremely successful. And I think that's something that's not worth throwing away to partner with Tommy Robinson. As controversial as that may seem, I think you don't always have to be in politics. Tommy is never going to be a politician.
No, and he doesn't want to be, in fairness. He does not want to be, in fairness.
We can appreciate that and say that Tommy doesn't belong in the political sphere and doesn't belong with partnering reform, and that he can have the impact outside of it. In the same way that Nigel Farage was one of the most successful politicians we've ever had before he even stepped on the green benches. There are some people who just transcend politics. Tommy is one of those people who is not going to make his mark through being in politics, and therefore I don't think that reform necessarily needs to align with him. And that's not me saying that he's a bad person or whatever. I just don't think it's going to work.
No, I mean, I understand that. It was interesting when I saw him Based and Bougie in December. He was very clear because at that point, Nigel had been a little bit on the attack. And he just said, I want the attacks to stop. Now, Nigel has changed his rhetoric a little bit. He has said that he shouldn't be in solitary confinement, which I think is a total no-brainer. But how do you respond to Sophie's point of view on that? Do you understand that actually when she says it's not an electoral strategy for Reform UK to be pro Tommy Robinson? Do you agree?
I don't agree. Reason being, because if you look at what Tommy Robinson supports and believes in, is the exact same thing as reform: end migration, stop the grooming, lower your tax, protect farmers, is all the same thing. So why Nigel Farage continues to try to humiliate Tommy Robinson, I just can't understand why that is. And even if you don't think that Tommy Robinson would make a good political figure, it doesn't mean you need to just talk so downly on him and so nastily towards him. So that's my point of view.
Sophie?
Well, look, I think if we look at how, obviously we've got James McMurdoch, who's one of our MPs, who obviously has had some misbehaviour in the past in terms of him having an altercation with a woman outside of a nightclub. And that's taken away a significant amount of focus towards reform. So if you think about doing that for Tommy Robinson, who does have a criminal past, and it's not only to do with politics, then it's going to take such a significant amount of attention away from reform, away from the cause. And that's not what we need. What we need right now is a party who's going to come along and do what we need and tell the truth in Britain. And it's a shame that it's not going to work that way. But it doesn't mean that Tommy doesn't have his place in political discourse, but it's just not going to work electorally. And I think if you've never ran an election, if you've never understood how actually difficult it is to get over the line, especially when you're a third party, it's difficult for you to understand the relationship between this and how delicate that their electoral force is for reform. And the voter coalition is so powerful. It can potentially be one of the most powerful voter coalitions there has ever been, but it is also extremely delicate, and something that needs to be protected at all costs.
It's a fascinating discussion, a fascinating debate. I think it is one that will divide the right of British politics quite a lot over the next few months. My position on this is Nigel should just adjust his rhetoric a bit, because there's absolutely no need for him to go on the attack against Tommy Robinson, given that actually so many reform supporters are very sympathetic to that cause. And certainly Nigel has a strong role to play in terms of this terrible mistreatment of Tommy Robinson behind bars, which we will keep track of here, of course.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.